From zero to $10,000 a month. That's what this video is going to be about. How to make that bridge from maybe still kind of refining what it is you're going to do for people, understanding how you're going to put it out there, and actually getting to, a six-figure a year business. Now, the way that I'm going to show you how to do this in this video, you can see it's a very, very long video. I figured I can speak from, my experience, and I can show you, okay, this is what I did, step by step. And I can do that, but candidly, it's been 6 years since I made that leap. I've been in the internet space for so long, and I've been selling different coaching programs and working and doing different niches and everything. So I figured what would be most helpful is inside of our client group, I just co-hosted a call with one of our students, and they actually did that exact leap. So they've been with us a while, and they finally figured out a niche and an angle that they feel aligned with and they feel convicted about. And within 30 days of figuring that out, they went from 0 to 10 grand a month, and they're gonna describe the entire thing. They're gonna show you everything and teach you step by step exactly what they did. And I think this would be so valuable if you're in that stage where you know that you are kind of called to more, you could be doing more. And like me, when I was at that stage, you just kind of needed a model and you needed a path to follow. It's gonna be a super, super valuable video, and I hope that you enjoy it. I highly recommend watching the whole thing. And obviously, if you ever become a student of ours, welcome to get to know this individual as well. They came to us running a marketing agency. We're not aligned with that business model. They didn't like it at all, actually. They didn't feel aligned with that at all. Came here, helped them find something that they're aligned with, and here they are today, doing 10 grand a month, and he's looking to grow even further. So I figured this would be a good way to do it, right? And just add a ton of value to you because, I can break it down. But at this point, in our business, we're scaling, I'm aiming at being a $10 million a year company over the next couple of years. That's like my personal goal. Whether we hit it or not, I could care less. I'm here to serve people. I love helping people. I love sharing the mission and just adding value in people's lives and helping them succeed. The psychology of going from scratch to that level is I think, so crucial. And that's really what this call is about today. So enjoy, watch the whole thing, and please, 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 in the comments, let me know what your key takeaways are. Enjoy. All right, so for those watching the recording, this is with Fahad. And Fahad, you've been around a good while. I've gotten to know you pretty well through the program. Here you are doing, 10 to 20K a month. You found an offer that works for you. And it's just a great example of that, really from that zero level, not zero, you had some experience, you kind of came into this knowing what you want to do, to now, at a pretty good spot. And I'll kind of let you describe it. I don't want to speak for you. You know what I mean? But if you could just kind of give that overview, and then we'll let people into the room and we'll start training. Not to put the spotlight on you, not to make too much pressure. You know what I mean? Would be helpful.
Yeah, so I initially started before getting in Trey's program, looking into SMMA, trying to start a marketing agency. And then long story short, Trey convinced me to do coaching instead. So switched to coaching, had my initial offer. I didn't really resonate with it, right? Simply because I just decided to choose something and run with it. It wasn't until this past 2 months that I really decided to switch my offer to something that I truly cared about and, I had conviction on. And that's when things really changed for me. And then using, Trey's system, I was able to get to 0 to 10K per month in 33 days, exactly 33 days, just shy of 30. But
nice. And now I'm putting the pressure on him. I'm like, all right, dude, now teach it to our clients. And I'm just going to turn off my camera and my audio and just literally just listen and just learn too. Cause I learned so much from how our clients utilize the material. So I'm gonna let these guys into the room here and we'll get to work. You ready to go, dude? Let's do it. All right, we got a good handful. Sort of a short notice call. Welcome, guys. We got Todd. What's up? We got Colin, Jami. We got Augustin. I hope I'm saying your name right. Christian. What's up, guys? It's gonna be a fun call today. Fahad and I just did it for the recording. But Fahad, for the people who are just hopping on, maybe talk a bit about yourself and what kind of dive into things, and we can make it conversational. I'm really just going to give Fahad the wheel here and let him kind of do his thing, to be frank, because he's killing it. So, yeah, go for it, Fahad.
I'm glad to be back in the coaching seat. But yeah, for those of you that don't know what I do, I'm a financial coach. I help people get in control of their spending and really just, learn how to manage their money better. And in the recent months, I've found some success with my system and finally got the ball rolling. I'm now at a little over 10K per month, right? But got to 10K per month in 33 days from 0 to 30. All right, well, sorry, from 0 to 10K. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to just sharing with you guys what has worked for me and the things that I've learned and implemented or tweaked a little bit, right, from the program, or just really just putting the basic principles in action, right? And not following scripts, not following, trends, but really just figuring out what works best for me, right? And staying authentic to myself. But I'll dive straight into that if you guys want. But do you guys have any questions about what I do before we begin? Cool.
I'm sure
Well,
there's
yeah.
like one or two questions, right? Or are we clear on that? Just making sure. Todd, you don't have any questions? Christian, Colin, Augustine, you got no questions about what Fahad does? You all clear? Sweet. All right, cool. Just make sure. Sorry, Fahad. Yeah. All right, cool. All right.
But awesome. Here, I'll share my screen so you guys can see what we're talking about. But honestly, the first biggest shift that I had in my business was my mindset, right? And it wasn't until I truly understood that I had to burn all boats to safety that I really truly became successful, right? And what I mean by that for me, right, I was very hesitant to raise my ad spend. For the longest time, I was doing $5 a day, right? Which, as I'm sure you guys understand, right, you're not going to get enough data for $5 a day. It's going to take you a long time before you have enough data to really make informed decisions about your marketing. So once I fully, understood like, okay, I need to have no plan B. There has to be no plan B. I can't have, a job offer waiting for me. I can't have another business model waiting for me. I need to make this work or die trying. Like I was so like I truly believed that I was going to do this or die trying. Like um that's how focused I was on, my mindset and really making this work no matter what. Because I've seen, all the other students, succeed at 30, 40, 50, even 200K per month. I'm like, if they can do it, why can't I? Right. So for me, it was just about burning the boats and having no plan B. Right. Then, I'll dive into, the four main things that I think really changed for me or helped me succeed, right? The first thing was my ads, of course, finding a winning ad. How do you do that, right? A lot of people ask me like, oh, what settings did you use? What's your targeting? What's all? I'm going to be honest, none of that really matters, right? You just have to stick to the program, stick to what Trey says, right? But also really just pick something and test it out. Ads are all about testing, right? You're not gonna, there is no winning strategy. There's no, I mean, to an extent there is, but it's going to be different from niche to niche and person to person, right? And your market is going to tell you exactly what you need to do, right? So the best thing you can do is just simply run an ad, test it, see how it works, get feedback from the community, and then go back and test another ad, right? But the biggest thing I want you to understand is pivoting hard and pivoting fast. This has been a huge mindset shift for me. Simply because, there'd be times where I'd run an ad and be like, it's been 4 days. Let me see. Maybe, let me run it for a couple more days, see how it does. But the truth is that you're just wasting time, right? With these ads, you should be able to know if it's going to be a winning ad within 4 days, right? I say within 3 to 4 days or, $20 to $30 of ad spend. Right. So what I tell everyone is just pivot hard, pivot fast. And actually, I learned this from Dave, the dog coach. He's helped me a lot. But yeah, so if after 4 days an ad isn't working, cut it. Just if it's not meeting KPI, cut it. Right. Run the next ad. If that doesn't meet KPI within 4 days, on to the next. Right. Pivoting hard, pivoting fast. Time is your greatest enemy and your greatest asset. Okay. So it goes both ways. So whatever you do, pivot hard and pivot fast. Okay. Now, when it comes down to my offer, right? In the past, I worked in real estate. I just decided to choose it because everyone was always like, whatever you do, just choose an offer or sorry, choose a niche and stick to it. Give it some time and go from there. I stuck to real estate for about 3 years, and I just was finding it very hard to succeed in simply because I didn't care about real estate. I didn't care about my clients. I didn't care about, my offer. I was just doing it just to make money, right? And at the end of the day, right, actually, I believe this was Anya Laws that mentioned this quote. She said that if you, what was the quote? It was somewhere along the lines of if you focus on if you focus on impact, the income will come. If you focus on impact, the income will come. So for me, I didn't care about the impact I was making for my real estate agents. I really didn't. I was just doing it for the money, right? So the income wasn't coming because I didn't care about the impact, right? Versus I switched to my financial coaching, right? For me, I truly cared about finance. I truly cared about helping people with their money, right? And helping them get out of their situation. So for me, it was more about the impact than the income. And evidently within 33 days, I got to 10K, right? So it really was just about, focusing on an offer that you have conviction in, right? So if you don't have conviction, and I learned this from, I'm just going to continue shouting people out, but I learned this from Ty, right? Ty, he helped me understand that, if you don't have conviction in your offer, everything else is going to be much harder. Appointment setting is going to be harder, sales is going to be harder, right? Delivering is going to be harder, right? So for me, I was like, okay, what offer can I sell to, my market that I'm going to have conviction in, right? And for me, it was just, helping people manage their finances. And that was something that I knew that I could get people results in, and I knew that I had enough confidence in my delivery that I could confidently go on these sales calls, confidently talk to these people and understand that, hey, I will get you from A to Z, and I know I can, right? And of course, to an extent, I had up until this point, when I was creating my offer, I had no idea what my delivery was going to look like. Let me just make that clear. But I knew that I had confidence in what I was talking about, right? So if you're deciding on reevaluating your offer, or you are creating your first offer, really try to pick something that you truly care about and is interesting enough to you, where you can have a level of conviction that your prospect will see through the screen. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Now, going after the offer, right, it really comes down to appointment setting. Now, appointment setting is a huge aspect of this because, of course, if you're not booking meetings, you're not going to be able to, make a sale. So the basic things that I want you to understand about appointment setting, and again, this is all about the principles, right? I could dive into the details and the scripts and all that, but that truly won't help you. What will help you is understanding these fundamental principles that will, help you change your own, it'll help you develop a system that works for your niche and for your personality, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about being human, being authentic to your true self and your offer, right? So it's going to be different for everybody, but these are the main principles that I want you to understand. The first thing is your appointment setting script or your sequence should be short and straight to the point. Okay, what I mean by that, right? Don't go back and forth, having I personally am not a believer in building rapport in the DMs, right? I don't think that's necessary. I think your content, especially with, the Instagram hybrid system, I think your content and your ad is the thing that's building the rapport, right? The DM appointment setting is just qualifying and, booking an appointment. So I like to keep it short and straight to the point because, as everyone knows, most people's attention spans are very, very short, right? So if you can keep it short and straight to the point and simply, understand where they're currently at, where they want to get to, what's stopping them from getting there, and then pitching them, right? If you can get that sequence like within like an hour, then you're gonna get the appointment booked. Okay, and that's what I found, right? But also making sure you're human, right? Be human in the DMs. Don't if it sounds like a script, people can smell that through the screen. They can smell that from a mile away, right? So I like to throw in some typos. I like to, I make my first letter, lowercase just so, it seems less robotic. I crack some jokes sometimes here and there, right? But if someone truly opens their heart to me and tells me about their situation, I'm not going to be like, okay, cool. How much are you making per month right now? No, I'm going to empathize with them, right? But then I'm going to quickly turn it over and be like, okay, where are you at currently? Where do you want to get to? Right. So keep it short and straight to the point. Don't write out fat paragraphs responding to a prospect, right? Just keep it short. They're going to appreciate that, and it's going to help you book an appointment quicker and also help them. Okay. Now, speed to lead is super, super important. We already know that, but I really want to stress that speed to lead for the first initial message, yes, that's important, but also maintaining speed to lead throughout the convo is also crucial. Okay, because that's what's going to enable you to book the appointment as fast as you can. Because what I have found is that there'd be days where, I would be slower in the DMs and slower at speed to lead. And I would respond, I would see a message and I'd be like, okay, I can respond in 30 minutes when I'm done doing this. Right. What I found was that when I responded to people as soon as they responded, the conversation just flowed and we got to the pitch much quicker. Right. So when we say speed to lead, we don't just mean the initial message. We're talking about the entire conversation, right? So where they're at, where they want to get to, what's stopping them, pitch, right? It's really that simple. And if you just stay at the phone, stay on the DMs, and just respond to them as soon as you can, right? You're going to book that appointment much quicker, right? Because like I mentioned, people's attention spans are very short, right? They're going to forget about you. They're going to forget why they DM'd you in the first place, and they're not going to want to continue the conversation, and they're probably going to ghost you, right? So that has been huge, a huge, huge shift for me in my booking rate, but also just, you know, not wasting. I think my convos to set rate is probably like 8% right now. So it's not bad. And I credit that to speed to lead. Now, the last thing that has truly shifted my appointment setting, and again, I'm just telling you what has worked for me. Of course, there's a ton of other things in between this that you should be doing, but these are things that, I personally changed in my strategy that have worked best for me. The Calendly questionnaire. Now, prior to, at one point I was only booking like 5 meetings a month, right? Everything else was the same. I was booking 5 meetings a month. And the reason why that was because in hindsight, I found out that my Calendly questionnaire was too long. I had like 8 to 10 qualifying questions, and people were just not booking in, right? So I asked Anthony Curtis what I should do, and he told me to break it down into three main questions, right? And for me, that was simply how much money you're making every month, what's stopping you from getting to your goal, and are you the main decision maker? So those were the three questions that I asked, right? And then as soon as I did that, my booking rate went through the roof, right? Nothing changed. I simply changed the amount of questions in my questionnaire, and that, it was basically a barrier of entry, right? Sure, I got some less qualified leads from that, but
I've actually got a question, dude. Where in this process are you utilizing a core value video, if at all, in the setting, after the booking, anything like that?
yeah, so it's actually after the booking. So
Nice.
this would
Yeah.
be, and I forgot to mention that has been a huge shift for me as well. I throw in my core value video after, um, of course, after they book in, I say, great, please watch this before the next meeting. See you on Tuesday, right? And I send them a Loom link to my core value video. Mine was personally 5 minutes long, right? I'm gonna switch that to what Trey recommends. I know Trey, you recommend having a super long core value video to get them hooked.
Make it super long, but then you don't have to watch the whole thing, but the more you watch, the more prepared you'll be. Like that's like what we tend to say. Because like 5 minutes, though, if it's a 5 minute video, they'll at least watch the 5 whole minutes. But if it's an hour long video, they'll still watch 5 to 10, maybe even 20 minutes. They won't watch the whole thing, but it'll really like for the people who are serious. Then by the time that meeting comes around, they're like locked in, good to go. And especially if in that core value video, you kind of include your story and why you do this. A lot of that basic messaging that I teach you guys about your mission, who you are, your background, your story, and then if you have any client successes, anything like that, just really take the time to and add real value too. I don't want to go on a core value video rant. I have a whole training video on that, but you guys know ours. It's a 3 hour long live boot camp I did about like Instagram. And it's just pure value. Um, It's a total game changer because it's trust hacking. You know, this is why we're able to enroll so many cold prospects. Is they're not cold prospects. We warm them up. You know, they're not cold. So yeah, I don't want to take the floor, but
No, no, for sure. Thanks for bringing that up because I found that by simply having a core value video, you kind of weed out the people that are, super heavy on questions and they
yeah,
want to ask like, oh, what are your qualifications? Like how long have you been doing this for? Like, how many clients do you have? Right? I don't get any of those people anymore
yeah,
simply because those people are more inclined to watch the core value video,
yeah,
right? And they're going to have all of their questions answered in that video anyway. So
yeah.
that really saves time in the sales process as well.
And Danny in the chat said the 3 hour video that Trey sent me was for sure a wormhole in my brain. I watched the whole video and came back 3 to 4 months later. So yeah, you just add a bunch of value, give away the farm. The rule that you know that a core value video is good is you feel like you should be charging for the information. That's how you know it's good. Just give it all away, man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna record I just haven't had a chance to do that, but I have to, the longer it is, the better it is because
Yeah. Yeah, I know your close rate's like 17% right now, something like that, 17, 20. I think if you nail your core value, you can get up to like 30. I really do think so.
yeah, and the people that actually watch it fully through, they're gonna be sold by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
make the sales call so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a limiting belief that I was like, no one's going to watch a 2 hour video, right? So that's why I made it 5 minutes, right? But of course, that was simply just a limiting belief.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
But yeah, awesome. So that's basically pretty much it for appointment setting. Other than that, I think that, organizing my leads has helped me a lot. So I simply use the Instagram native tool, right? So it has the options of labeling your conversations like shipped, ordered, basic labels. I just use that to organize my leads. I don't really have another CRM that I use at the moment, but that has helped me keep track of where people are in the DMs. So if someone, and I think Anya made a post about this in school, I simply I did what Anya did, where she labels the people. If you've sent them your Calendly link, you label them as shipped, right? And then I just follow up with those people within 12 hours or 24 hours if they haven't booked in a meeting. And what I say is I say like, hey, having any trouble finding a time that works for you? And that typically gets them to book in pretty short after that. So my pitch to book rate is pretty good for that reason that I stay on top of them. If I send them, if I pitch them, I make sure that they're truly not interested, right? I don't let them ghost me. I make sure I get an answer from them. But also, if I send them my Calendly link, I make sure that they find a time that works for them, or because at that point, if someone says yes to, seeing your Calendly scheduler, then there's no reason why they shouldn't book in, right? And for most people, they're at work or they're just not at their phone. So you have to make sure you're on top of them, following up and saying like, hey, did you get a chance to look at the scheduler, find a time that works for you? And that typically gets those people that are, hanging around to book in. But cool. So that's appointment setting, right? And I just want to stress that it's not the script. There's no winning script. Yes, Trey's script is all like perfect, right? But you really have to make it work for your niche and for your own personality. If you just copy and paste the script, you're not going to sound human, right? And oh, another thing, sorry, this has been huge that a lot of people don't do this, but part of Trey's script is providing value before you pitch the call, right? So what I mean by that is you get them to tell you where they're currently at, where they want to get to, and what's stopping them. But then what I like to do is I like to just give them a chunk of value before I pitch them, right? So I say like, hey, I totally get that, you think that this is an income problem, but in my experience, from my past experience, it's rarely an income problem. It's more about money management and XYZ, right? Does that make sense? Right? And then once I get a verbal confirmation from them, then I pitch the call. Okay. And that has been huge because I've tested both. I've tested not offering value and just going directly into pitching the call and offering value. 9 times out of 10, when you offer value, they will respond, right? If you say, does that make sense? Was that, does that help? right? They will respond with yes or no. And if they say no, then you continue, and that's just a better way to continue the conversation. But most of the time they're going to say yes, and then that'll give you a good way to pitch that call, right? But also, that's the most important time to be quick with responding. Speed to lead is most crucial at that section when you provide value and when you pitch the call. Because the second they agree they agree to what you said. So like, again, does that make sense? Was that helpful? Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. Honestly, I'd love to hop on a call with you, blah, 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 blah. Right? That section right there, it's super, super crucial to do speed to lead. And honestly, at the end of the day, like if you are just even if your script, even if your sequence is mid, if your speed to lead is good, you're gonna book a lot of appointments, right? Because that is the crucial aspect of the appointment setting method, right? If you are not on top of those conversations, those DMs, you're not going to book appointments because people are just going to forget about you and they're going to get distracted and they're not going to respond. They're going to ghost you. Okay. Yeah. That wraps up the appointment setting part. Any questions about that? Colin, Christian, Todd? No? Cool. Cool. So the final thing that has truly helped me is sales, right? Of course, right? It really comes down to having conviction. I know this ties into your offer, right? If you have conviction in your offer, sales calls are going to be much easier to conduct. Okay. So having conviction in your offer, having conviction in what you do and what you're saying is crucial in having a smooth sales call. Okay. Because honestly, like, anyone could memorize a script, and when you memorize a script, it comes off as salesy, it comes off as disingenuous, and you sound robotic, right? So when you actually have conviction in your offer, you're able to speak from a level of, true understanding of their situation, right? Where you can actually empathize with them better. And, people can sense that through a screen, through your voice, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is being authentic. Okay. Having authenticity with who you are, right? Everyone's personalities are different, right? There's so many different tones you could talk in on a sales call. Some people like to be aggressive with their sales calls, right? Where they're just very blunt and direct with, people. If that's your personality, then do it, right? But if you're more soft and, lighthearted and, more quiet, or not necessarily quiet, but, more reserved, then people appreciate that too, because that's your true self. So whatever you do, be authentic with who you actually are. Don't try to be another version of yourself. Simply be the same person that they're going to get when you start coaching them. Okay. And that has been crucial for me because I'm sure you guys have seen all those YouTube videos about sales and, all those gurus that talk about, you have to show them who's boss. You have to have a level of authority, right? I don't necessarily, I believe that to an extent, but I also think that it's important to kind of read the room as well, right? Be human and understand, like, okay, if someone is having a bad day, right, call them out, one, but also, kind of don't match their energy in the sense that also act like you're having a bad day, but match their energy in the sense that, like, if they're kind of like mellow and like they just want to chill, don't talk with a high pitch and like try motivating them, right? You just kind of have to mirror their tone in a way, right? I don't know. Does that make sense? I'm not really I'm not a sales guy, but from my short experience, that's what's helped me. But yeah, just being human in general, that's the best way to put it, I think.
I'd love to hear like if there's any key thoughts so far as you guys are just listening.
Got some more people in here.
I'd love to hear like if there's any. Sometimes it's helpful, is like what's really standing out. Sometimes it's helpful, is like what's really standing out.
Yeah, yeah, can you hear me?
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's actually, by the way, thanks so much for doing this, Fahad. This has been great. Thanks for setting up the notion and everything and going over this. Really, really valuable. Um, But yeah, the match their tone, I completely understand that. Like I was watching, like that's something that they say, like you gotta make sure that whatever their mind state they're in, you need to kind of match it. You can't be like up here and they're kind of like here. It's gotta be like equal, which is I think sometimes you forget, but so that's a great reminder. But I was just wondering about your Calendly setup. I was looking through it right now. First of all, do you have a paid setup or do you have like still have a free one? And also like the video that you mentioned, is that the thank you video? Is that like upload it on your website or on the
It's
thing
just a
itself?
video.
The
It's a core value video. You can go into the marketing training. I think it's now in appointment setting, or no, it's not. It's underneath the module launching ads in marketing. It's called building your core value video. It's a piece of content you send somebody that really warms them up before the meeting. You can use it in the DM before the set to warm them up, or you can use it after the set. Just in general, you use it at some point in the sales process because after they watch it, they're more open to hearing what you have to say because they've gotten value.
no. Yeah, no, I am actually, yeah, I know about the core value video. It's like, I know that you have one too, Trey. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe I didn't hear it correctly. So the core value video, like, is that something that you upload to Calendly? Like, it's more like a tech question, or like, what's the process with that?
I
Or do
do
you have to
both.
get?
So I have a redirect that redirects them to the core value video, but I also DM it to them right after they book in.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Awesome.
in terms of Notion, this is just the free version of Notion.
What about the Calendly?
Calendly, I think I pay like 10, $15 a month, something like that. It's the basic version of Calendly, the basic paid version.
Awesome. Um,
Any other key takeaways? Because we can go into like tech Q&A questions, but I want to hear what other ideas are standing out before we get back to Fahad. Todd.
Yeah, I was wondering when you said burn the boats, how bad did you burn them?
Oh, great. Yeah, great question. Great question. I'd love to dive into that.
Because I'm in real estate as well.
Yeah, for me, when I talk about burning the boats, for me, and again, all of these things they apply based on where you're at in your timeline. For me, I was at a point where I was dead broke. Like I'm talking about like I only had a couple $100 in my bank account left and I was burning money on ads, right? And Trey knows this very well. Like I was at a point where I was considering like, man, should I get a job? Like I don't know, like my wife's gonna be pissed if I, burn through our bank account and I'm not making any money. And for me, it was really just fully embracing the idea of, for me, like win or die trying was win or, have my bank account go to zero. That's what it was for me. So when I mean burn the boats, for me it was okay, not relying on a second business model, not relying on a job, not relying on, because yes, for some people it's crucial. Like if you have, obligations, priorities, and different things, it's crucial to keep. If you have to keep your job, keep your job. That's totally fine. You got to pay the bills one way or another. For me, I was at a point where, I really wanted this to work and I wanted to go all in. So I was like, you know what? There was a moment in time where, I drove, I did Uber Eats just to pay for ad spend, right? And making like $30 a day just so I could run my ads to increase my ad spend. Because for the longest time I was running ads for $5 a day, and I was still scared. I was like, I need this to work. Is it going to work? Like, I'm just burning money at this point, right? Now I'm at a point where I know that I need to spend $500 to get a client, and you can't get to that point unless you spend that initial $500, right? Or whatever.
That was my next question is what did you jump from $5 a day? Did you jump straight to what was your increment?
Yeah, I jumped from $5 to 30. So a very big jump in terms of, and depends on perspective, but for me that was a huge jump. $30 a day is, $900 a month, which I didn't have, you know. So that
Did
was,
you run the same ads or did you do new ads with the new ad spend?
I waited until I found a winning ad and then I just went crazy. I
Okay.
bumped up the ad spend to $30 and then now I'm at I'm at $55. So, but of course now I have, revenue, so it's not as big of a deal. But back then when it's the hardest when you're not seeing money coming in and all you see is money leaving the bank account. That's the hardest, right? So that for me, that was the biggest thing that I had to overcome was just the idea of, all of this being for nothing, my money going to waste and not knowing if it was going to work or not. So burning the boats has been crucial. And I actually, if you guys, if you're at that stage where, you're struggling with mindset, you should read Think and Grow Rich. Like for me, I only read one chapter and I got what I needed, right? I read one chapter of this book and it told me to burn the boats. It told me the story of, how there was uh, I forgot the story, but it was like in some war, there was a sergeant who quite literally ordered his crew to set fire to all the boats on the island that they were on, right? And then eventually they ended up winning the war because everyone knew that there was no going back and they had to win or they would die. So I took that literally. And for me, that was as simple as, win or drain my bank account to zero. Colin knows this very well, right? Me and him were going through the same thing at one point, and it was it's part of the grind. You just have to accept that you got to do what you got to do to make it happen. And for me, it was just making it happen or burning my bank account. But yeah, great question. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Great answer.
And can I speak to that a little bit too? Just for me, what I've found, and so I've got a little heartburn right now. I can't figure out why. So I might be like a little bit weird as I talk. There's this idea that the world just kind of opens up to you once you truly in your heart say, okay, I'm not stopping until I figure this thing out. And it's one thing to intellectually say that, but there's this idea in like the self-help genre of information of heart and head alignment, and it's something that I've been infatuated with because it's really like my head and my heart need to be in agreement. So my head needs to be like, okay, your head is like where your amygdala causes fear. It creates what if scenarios that are just completely based in not in reality. And then your heart wants this dream of the future. And so what you really have to do, I think, in order to, and I've had to redo this at different seasons because I'll get comfortable. I'll get comfortable at a certain level, and then I want to grow. In order to grow, I have to get uncomfortable again. I have to go back into that all-in mode. And I just think the way that you do that is it's a conversation of what do you actually want, not what are you saying you want. But what do you actually in your heart of hearts want? And that takes some self-reflection for me. But a lot of the time I find when my business isn't growing, even though I'm working really hard to make it grow, I don't actually want to grow. Because on some level, I'm comfortable where I'm at. And on some level, I'm not actually all in. I'm saying I'm all in. I'm saying I want this. I'm saying that this is the future that I desire, but then my actions don't really line up, and the bets that I'm taking don't really line up. So especially coaching businesses are such a personal growth journey. And I think people who make it that are the ones who win, honestly. I've seen this trend over and over and over again, having done this for, 4 or 5 years. Every client that I've seen get to 7 figures with us, the weight's on their shoulders to become the version of themselves that they have to be to have the business they want. They're not looking at ads as the problem. Your brain, when your business is going where it's supposed to go, if you're not immediately looking to yourself and your thought process and the way that you're doing things to find the solutions, then there's something wrong there. For me, that's been my experience. There's very few strategies that make up for not being the individual that deserves the things that you want. And that can just take time. And so if right now you're in a stage where it is kind of that grind, or it is kind of that, be patient with yourself. You have to be. You have to accept the process. But, Fahad, I think you read Think and Go Rich. And I know the story you're talking about, the general that literally commanded his army to burn the boats, because if they don't, as long as they don't have the safety net, then they know that they have to make this work. And that's dangerous advice. And I'm telling you guys to take that and use it in your own time. I'm not telling you guys, you have to do your own journey and decide if that's something you're ready to do. And we even have clients who have gone on to succeed who aren't, all in, but they don't really succeed at the same level, to be frank. They don't sustain the success. If it's the main thing, it's your option. And then it has to work, and it's from a heart and head alignment. There's no inner incongruency within you. Then I've found the people who are there's no inner I think this, but I also think this, and there's some conflict there. If you don't settle those inner conflicts, then it's really hard to succeed with a coaching business. So you kind of have to take the time to work some of those things through, and it sounds like, Fahad, that's kind of been a part of your journey, man.
Yeah, and something that actually helped me burn the boats was you, Trey. Right? You
Rock on, dude.
providing all those KPIs for us to sort of lean on. Right? Understanding that the majority of people don't see less than a 3x ROI with their ads, right? That helped me understand, like, okay, if the average person, right, is seeing more than a 3x ROI, then there's no reason I shouldn't. That's why I was more comfortable with burning the boats, is because Trey has quite literally laid out all of the KPIs that we need to follow, right? And there's really no reason for
Yeah, and find a winning ad first, and be responsible. Like, don't be stupid. Like, find a winning ad. Like, take your time, get that thing settled. But I think you started to hit a point, Fahad, where you had a winning ad. You knew this thing worked, but you still felt the inner resistance. And now you're in a life scenario where you're young, but even me, like, I've had to rework through this. And very honest, this is me being super vulnerable with you guys right now. I am just now reworking through that since I've had a kid. There's a new level of responsibility that I feel, where it's like, oh man, what if I was talking to my dad on the phone about a week or two ago, and I was like, I was walking this balance beam, and it was relatively easy to walk, because on the sides of the balance beam were these nice big old cushy foam squares. You guys know those things in like gyms? Now there's spikes in lava is what it feels like if I'm not careful. But kids do change things, and I had to be very careful, Danny, with my psychology in that moment when I had a kid. Because when I had a kid, I knew that my male, and some of the women on this call, I'm sure you feel this as well, but for my male instinct is, I got to provide for this human. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And all these what if scenarios start to come more naturally to me because now I have a child. And what I've had to do is I've had to be like, look, what is the actual worst case scenario? And truly come to terms with it. And in my heart, I am totally okay moving back home. I'm totally okay if everything falls apart. I'm totally okay going back to absolute zero. I'm at peace with that. And because of that, I've given myself the freedom. And I just think that if you're operating from a place of fear, these things just are so much harder. And that's a huge journey, and that's not something you're going to fix on one call. You know what I mean? But you kind of got to go through that stuff. So any comments on that, Fahad? Is that kind of aligning with what you're saying there?
aligns perfectly. For me, and again, yes, it is dangerous advice to burn the boats, but you have
Yeah,
to.
it's dangerous. So I'm like, well, hold up, guys. I don't want everybody to like drain their bank to like negative 500 and be like, Trey's you got to do that in your time. But there is, one of the most important things you can do in business as a concept, and I've really been, as I'm thinking at a higher level with my business recently, kind of one of the themes I'm moving into the next year or two as I continue to serve this community and the clients that we'll bring on, is really speaking more to your relationship to the what ifs and the fear side of things. Because that never goes away. Even at, multiple 7 figures a year, those thoughts will still come into my head. Those never, ever, 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 ever go away. Tax bills hit, important team members, things change. And you're always having to realign your relationship with the what ifs. That's just the reality of entrepreneurship. And that's why a lot of entrepreneurs, you look at like big tech CEOs, they're like, people are like, would you do it again? They're like, I don't know, maybe not. I'm not really sure. Because it's this constant growth journey. And for me, this is where my faith comes in. A lot of you who don't have the same faith, that's totally fine. But for me, I genuinely just find my peace in my walk with God. And I'm like, this is ultimately a game. And I kind of put it in its place there. And I know that God's got me no matter what. And I really had to get to that place in order for this to even work, especially once I had a kid. You know, and if you have a different higher power, you have a different thing, it's fine. But you have to have that with yourself. I've found. So I don't want to hog the mic, but that's just such a cool topic. You know.
Yeah, 100%. And it was very similar to me.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have a different faith, for me, it was just putting everything in the hands of God and just really understanding like, what's meant to happen is going to happen. And, just once you fully let go of the outcome and just focus on the process and really just doing everything that you can. So of course, you know, praying and making, speaking to God and asking him to give the best outcome, but also backing that up with action is huge. It's huge. So that's also been helpful for me. But another thing was really just, and again, tying into the burning the boats thing, what's helped me burn the boats and really my mindset in general is making data-driven decisions, right? That is huge, absolutely huge, right? I talked about this in school as well, right? And you guys can go back and look at all my school posts. Like I walked through my entire journey from, my first client to my most recent ones, where one of the things I said is making data-based decisions, not emotional ones, right? So for me, I used to make everything was emotional, like, like I don't think this ad is doing well, let me turn it off. Like, like this ad can do better, like let me see what I can do. The data doesn't lie. Emotions do sometimes. The data doesn't though. So that is another thing, right? So I only burned the boats once I knew that the data was there to back my decision. So that's
Can I
another
say one
thing
more
that's
thing
helped
about that, and then I would love to hear that, and then I would love to hear.
Yes, I was curious about what.
Oh, thanks. I want to say one more thing about that. Then I really want to hear what you have to say, Todd. Really, one of the things that talking about your relationship with fear and the what ifs. I think you have a unique moment when you're having like behind every emotion is a belief, and I can unpack that more if you guys need on the call some other time, do some mindset training, whatever. But behind every emotion is a belief. So whenever you feel an intense thing, take a sec and ask what belief is behind this feeling. And then usually when you just put a spotlight on the belief, it's shown, and then you can dismantle it if it's not serving you. You know, and I just think that people who make it all about what's out there, they just don't win in business. You have to take the time to assess, why is this making me feel this way? Even when things are really good. I made a sale. Why is this lighting me up? What's the belief behind this? And just really be in charge of that inner dialogue, which can just take time and mindfulness and a sense of self-awareness. But yeah, I want to hear what other people have to say. I love this topic, and this is where my head is 90% of the time, honestly. Tony Robbins says success is 80% psychology, 20% tactic. And that just continues to be true as I evolve as an entrepreneur. It's true in new ways every month, it feels like. So yeah, I love this topic. Todd, please.
I was curious, what was the specific data that you used when you said, okay, this ad is winning versus this ad's not winning?
It was just the KPIs that the Trey has laid out in the spreadsheet, right? So I looked at that. I was like, okay, my inbound cost is good. My cost per follow is decent. My cost per appointment is good. Then at that point, it's just a matter of if your spreadsheet is within KPI, your tracking sheet, then there's no reason why. Actually, I'm not gonna say that because it depends on the situation. But technically there's no reason why you couldn't scale and increase your ad spend, right? Technically, right? But of course, there's other things that go into play, like your closing rate and your there's a bunch of other things you also need to consider. But just a general, I don't want to make a blanket statement and say that if everything's in KPI, you could bump up your ad spend to $1,000 and get the same results. That's not necessarily the case. But generally speaking, yes, right? If your data is within KPI, then you should and you could increase your ad spend and scale. But yes, to answer your question, it's simply just the KPIs in the spreadsheet, in the tracking sheet. Jomi, you got a question?
Yeah, yeah, Fahad, about so I was just wondering, like, what is your psychology behind content when it comes to like content marketing? Because I see that you have a lot of good content, but it seems to me like the last content you put out was probably like back in June. So I was just wondering like how you see that when it comes to ads, because it seems like you found a winning ad and you just ramped it up.
Yeah, exactly. So content is definitely important, but for me, my thought process is, right, the Instagram ad system that Trey teaches works so well. All you need is really just a landing page, right? And our Instagram pages are essentially just landing pages for our ads, right? So once you get to a point where you have a foundation of content that relates to your offer, relates to what you're talking about in your ad, and really provides value to your ideal client, once you have enough content, for me, it could be as simple as just filling up your profile grid, right? But as long as that content is providing value and it speaks to your ad, it speaks to your audience, and it, it aligns with what you're talking about in the DMs, right? Then it really doesn't matter what new content you post necessarily, right? That's just, to me, that's just a bonus. By posting more content, you're nurturing the people that are already following you, and they have a higher chance of responding to your DMs and booking in. But the way the system works, we're speaking to hot leads that are instantly, seeing our ad, looking at our post, and then DMing us, right? So the content doesn't necessarily matter. That's why I haven't really, one, I haven't had the time. I haven't made the time to make new content. But two, I feel like I'm at a point where my cost per meeting is like 23 bucks, and I haven't posted in months, right? The last post I had was another ad that I tested, so I haven't really posted any real content in a couple months. So it's the content is not that important. New content is not that important, but having a proper landing page with content, like I mentioned, is helpful. So that's more important than posting continuously new content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Thank you.
So I do plan on posting more content just for the sake of getting organic reach, just to, because it's free leads, right? But also, just nurturing past followers. That's the main.
In our company, we see content as like a profit center, right? So like it's a long term, it's a profit center, because the sales that you're gonna get from ads here, right? I mean, you'll only profit so much. But like if people could just like nurture, digest your content, get to know you as a person. You guys know the 30-30-30 framework. That call we did with Kate was really good. Just like, who are you? What's your mechanism? Or your strategy? Why is it better? Just that stuff. And then just, it kind of acts as this like, you can turn a buck into 3 to 5. I'd say, I mean, it depends on the person and it depends on so much with just the ad. But if you introduce a content strategy, that's where you get to, like Kate level of returns, where it's like $1,200 on ads and freaking 20 grand a month in sales. But she kind of came into the program kind of preloaded with a good relationship with her content strategy. And so that's why she just like popped off like that, So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the content is crucial. It definitely is, because some of Trey's most successful students are people who have a platform, who have succeeded with content, and their cost per client is much lower simply because the content has been there to nurture those people and bring more traffic to their pages. So that's a huge factor. But hypothetically speaking, you don't necessarily need consistent content to see results with this program. But yeah.